Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee to order. We have a quorum with Mr. Price and myself, and I'm going to ask that, well, actually we can't put anything on consent yet, so let's start with public comment. Ms. Ramirez, you have 2 minutes on every item on the agenda, plus 1 minute of public comment.
May I start with the public comments, please?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I like pets and I take care of pets. However,
your name, please.
Antonia Ramirez. I just would not want to have a pet. I don't want to take care of them because they do require a heavy burden. And I'm not saying I would not care for an animal in case he's outside or something, but I'm definitely not one for animals. I care more for human beings than I do a pet. Having said that, I've contacted the personnel office for Los Angeles several times. This has been 3 years plus. I've been asking for a copy of my father, Antonio Ramirez's record for the city of Los Angeles. He worked in the sanitation department. He was an exceptional human being, one who taught me right from wrong and how to live my life. I follow his steps. I've been requesting in writing and vocally and orally for a record of my father's entire employment history. His recommendations, commendations, rewards, whatever. He is now deceased, and I would love to have a copy of my father's entire record. That is really what I want before I leave this world. And the next part is agendas. You're not posting your agendas within 72 hours. I come here at night and day, over the weekend, and I don't see the agendas for Tuesday. And that, I just assume that there's not going to be a meeting, and then I assume that there's going to be a recess. And next thing you know, I find out at the last minute running over here that there was a meeting. So I'm running in late. So again, please have the courtesy to let us know. And item number 3. We want all United States military personnel to get triple pay when they are out there in the fuming infernos combating the flames. They're carrying over 50 pounds of equipment, trekking up these steep inclined mountains that are rugged and jagged and unsafe, to the point of stepping over and killing themselves. Again, these mountains are very steep and they're awfully dangerous. And again, we are talking about these United States Armed Service employees who are also military. And so we want to make sure that they will get compensated fairly and justly, because again, these are extra unusual circumstances. They deserve to get triple pay. Again, the United States military employees who work for the city of Los Angeles, who are combating these infernal flames up in the mountains, wherever they are. And also our United States pilots who are also dousing these flames with either water or a fire retardant. We want them to be compensated. We want them to be acknowledged. We want them to be protected, so we don't have the same disaster that happened once, where all these beautiful firemen were circled and encaved by these flames, and they were burned alive. Nobody could help them. So again, we don't want that to happen. God bless our pilots, and God bless our United States military, and God bless Donald Trump. God, he is a kick-ass man. Thank you very much. And God bless America. Thank you.
Now I'd like to ask, with no other further public comment, general public comment is closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to ask that we put item 3, 4, 9, 13, and 14 on consent.
3, 4?
3, 4, 9, 13, and 14. Actually, I will hold item 14 because we still have a public comment on that one. But item 13, 9, 3, and 4 unless there's any objection.
No objection?
Okay, so those 4 are approved on consent without objection. So on 3 and 4, we approved the CAO and city attorney recommendations. On 9, we approved the CAO recommendations. And on 13, we approved the draft ordinance. Also, item 12 will have to be continued since it's agendized with an incorrect council file number. So I assume we'll continue that without objection. So let's start with item number 1.
Item 1, communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Mr. Raul Perez to the Board of Civil Service Commissioners for the term ending June 30th, 2023.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Raul Perez.
Good afternoon. So why don't you start by telling us a little about yourself?
My name is Raul Perez. I live in South Carthage. You're my representative. I've been serving on the Civil Service Commission for over a year now. Currently serve as the Vice President. Previously, I served the City of LA at the Airport Commission and the Pension Commission. Born and raised in Fresno, currently practice, have my own law firm in Century City. My specialty is representing workers through class actions as well as consumers through class actions.
And anything in particular that you're hoping to accomplish in your first term?
Personally and professionally, committed to the idea of...
New term.
Yes.
Yes.
Personally and professionally, very committed to the idea of justice, and I would like to continue to have the opportunity to play a role in making sure justice is served not only for the City of LA, but also for the employees that come before us at the civil service to make sure they feel that there was due process and justice was served.
Mr. Price, any questions?
First of all, thank you for your willingness to serve and stepping up to the plate. I'm just curious, do you think there's anything we should be doing proactively to help employees understand and know what their rights are or what their...
I believe the commission staff and the personnel department is proactive in making sure that employees understand the various appellate rights that they have. Obviously, sporadically, we have some employees who come before us with grievances where they haven't exhausted their administrative remedies. So to the extent that we can continue to provide that education to employees to make sure that there is different departments in the city that can address their grievances, I think that is a goal that's continuing worth pursuing. For example, sometimes people have discrimination complaint and they come to us first before actually going to the appropriate department. Yes. But so I think the effort to continue to provide that information is...
Do you see a need for some sort of, generic institutional sort of information out, know your rights? If you have questions, make this call. I mean, is there a need to do that, or is that happening now? Or?
Yeah, I think there is that information available to the extent that it needs to be enhanced or improved. I haven't looked at into the issue. I think that the staff does adequate job in providing that information to the extent that, like I said, it's very sporadic when we seem to have an employee who was not fully informed about the process and the different ways they can address their grievances before they come to us. As you know, we're have the final say in terms of the appellate process. We don't address it at the initial stage.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Well,
Thank you. And we appreciate your qualifications and your excellent service in the past. So we will approve your recommendation by the mayor without objection.
Thank you.
Thank you. And perhaps, Mr. Price, we should do a motion asking the department to take a look at whether we need additional materials in that sense. So,
I'd move that, Mr. Chairman.
and
Support.
and I would second it. And I don't know what the process is to have that come from the committee.
It might be more practical to do it as a separate motion in council, since this is mixed in with a commission appointment. It might be better to stand alone.
All right, so we'll do that. We'll work on that.
Okay.
Item number 2 the appointment of Dr. Erica Jaquez, and I probably mispronounced your name. I'm almost sure of it.
It's okay. Thank you so much.
Communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Dr. Erica L. Jaquez to the Board of Civil Service Commissioners for the term ending June 30th, 2019.
Thank you, Chair Koretz, Councilmember Price, and to the committee for giving me this opportunity to be here today.
And maybe, again, you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Thank you so much. I've had my great career in commitment to public service, 18 years. Worked for the California State Senate, worked for State Senator Martha Scutia. Later on, went to work for Los Angeles County Supervisor Gloria Molina, ran her field operations as well. Was then later appointed to the Obama administration, served as Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and later on went to the White House, worked in legislative affairs for the Office of Management and Budget. Came back home after my term in my appointment there. Worked for Ultimate Health Services, did government relations for Ultimate, which is the largest FQHC, Federal Qualified Healthcare Center, and later went on to the industry. And when I came back to Los Angeles, I was fortunate enough to be appointed to the Housing Authority, became vice chair, and also served on the Health Commission.
Well, you have an impressive resume,
Thank you.
needless to say.
Thank you.
So I wonder whether there are elements of your background that you think will help in this position, and if there are goals that you look forward to accomplishing as a member.
Most definitely. Thank you so much. I really did enjoy my tenure working in government, working for the state senate as well as the county, federal government. I've had roles where I managed and oversaw offices and saw firsthand directly how protecting the rights of our employees as well as the state, the county, and the federal government, understanding the importance of due process and how important it is to have an advocate and a social justice process to make sure that everybody's voice is heard, and that's my commitment. I was really excited about this particular opportunity now with what's going on with the Me Too movement, understanding the mayor's new directive on sexual harassment, making sure that employees feel that opportunity that they're safe. Also coming from a strong union background, making sure that opportunity for workers feeling that they are safe in their workplace no matter what the issue is also making sure that there are no egregious issues that will directly impact the liabilities for the city. So being an advocate and protective, watchful eye on both sides is something that I'm definitely committed to being.
Great. Mr. Price?
So what do you think
anything
the
else?
biggest challenges are going to be, or in this, on this commission, what do you think the biggest issues are that you're going to be grappling with?
It's going to be very interesting as far as seeing the process of the new harassment policy come into play, and actually being very excited about how it's going to be more easy, more interactive, how folks can just go online and report what's going on. So that's the first issue, and seeing how that's directly going to be into play. Also making sure that, I'd say that's the first thing that I see coming up, but as far as getting more familiar with the city, making sure that there's a due process there. Understanding what's going on in different entities is it's very easy to rush to judgment on things and see things swayed. And in this particular commission, I'm very excited to see there's a long-standing history of due process and understanding and making sure that folks are heard and the city is protected.
I think with your background, your training, and your experience, you'll be a great addition to the commission, so we appreciate your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
And I would agree. And so we will move your recommendation by the mayor without objection.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
And Madam City Attorney, since I believe we already closed public comment, do we need to accept any latecomers' public comments?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not for public comment, but for the individual items
Okay. So we still need to do that part.
that we haven't heard yet.
Oh, okay. All right, so we will reopen public comment on multiple items.
As we get to
We don't have to hear them on 14 items. Okay, so
No.
we will reopen public comment on the multiple items only,
that are not done.
and that would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, and 14. 10, 11, and 14. if 12 was continued. All right, Mr. Herman, you have 2 minutes on the items that you put in that have not been heard yet. And you can start his time.
Sorry, Bob. Give me a chance to get to the chair, bro. I'm fucking handicapped. Fucking racist motherfucker. Racist motherfucker. So, item 6 deals with the personal department report relative to the plan 2019. Farewell, LA. Farewell, civilian benefit program, because the city's in a deficit. Yeah. Let's go to item 8, City Attorney Report Ordinance relative to amending Los Angeles Administrative Code. Well, let me apply section 115953, bar license number, to authorize the insurance of a budget reform from the asshole Paul Krikorian Alley Well Employee Benefit Trust Fund. Fuck you. Then I'm going to go to the next fucked up item on the fucked up list in my fucked up 2 minutes, dealing with item number 10. One and only tyrant, contemptuous
Mr. Herman,
motherfucker of animal services and reports
Mr.
relative.
Herman, you can stop.
Huh?
I'm asking you to
wrong?
stop. Nothing. You did nothing wrong. Mr. Spindler, you are making goat noises and other disruptive activities out in the audience. Any further activities, and you'll be removed before you get to speak. Go on, Mr. Herman.
So as you see, my service animal and I have been retaliated by the city of Los Angeles by one other Mitchell Englander with the big ears. In pertaining to with Latino, although I am not Latino, I'm a fucking Native American of Animal Care Foundation for the operation of dealing with fucking valley spray and neuter clinics, which I don't participate in. Why? Because I have a right to protect my bitch from getting her little cunt cut and sewed up. I have a right to protect my cunt bitch in my lap anytime. I have the right to defend her under 42 U.S.C. 1983. So someone tell that cunt Englander to tell Steve Sobroff to pay for your fucking dog license. Woof, woof.
Mr. Spindler, you have 2 minutes to speak on all the items that have not been heard yet.
And which are those?
Items that have been heard are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12 has been continued, 13, and that's it.
Okay, so you can only speak on 13?
You can speak
On
on
7?
14, 11, 10, and 7.
Okay, 7 and 11.
Yes, okay. Papita Pig. Animal advocate, yes. So number 7, targeted local hire. I object to this because you're referring to local hires as niggers, and this must stop. We do not like this. We need to hire white niggers, yes, Korean niggers, and other forms of valley niggers other than just straight niggers in the report on page 90. So we oppose that. Please strike the language and add the specificity. Yes, that's a big word. Specificity of who the fuck you're hiring here. Yes. We go to number 13. What? Animal welfare? You mean that you're going to take little animals and cut their cunts out? We will not stand for this shit, no. We will not cut off the balls of dogs and bulls and pigs. We will allow them to fuck as Nuri does every day. We will allow it. And we will not allow this treachery to continue. The discrimination of those who have papers that are show dogs with those that are ordinary dogs like Nuri. Yes. We do not know who the ordinary bitch is who will have the benefit of 13, but one thing is for sure. Anybody that gets these animal welfare trust services smells like Paul Krikorian's wife, a real stinky bitch. So we do not support item number 13. As well, the Chesterfield Square North Animal Services. Item 1 has no dogs because all the Koreans have eaten the dogs. And number 8 has no dogs because in CD8, Marquise Harris Dawson is an Uncle Tom and a dog himself. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's take item number 14.
Item 13, City Attorney Report and Ordinance relative to amending the Los Angeles Administrative...
14.
Excuse me, as a word. Item 14, motion Bloomfield Corretts relative to requiring city departments to use cruelty-free office supplies which were not developed during using animal testing.
Okay, so we'll take the members of the public that signed up to speak on this item. Diana Mendoza to be followed by Matt Roselle.
Hi, good
Welcome.
afternoon. I am Diana Mendoza from Peta, and we were really excited to see this on the agenda. We fully support it. These days, there are so many companies that don't test on animals. There's absolutely no need to continue this type of torture. Many of the tests that happen aren't even required by law, and it may come as no surprise to you, but PETA is a completely cruelty-free office. We have been for years and years, and we have tons of resources that we would be more than happy to share, anything from, kitchen soap to whiteout alternatives. So thrilled with this, and anything we can do to help usher this through, we'd be more than willing to. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we probably should flag the fact that you've offered to be a resource, and I think you could be of great help. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Matt Roselle. I'm with Rescue and Freedom Project, which is formerly the Beagle Freedom Project. And we are very pleased that Councilmember Blumenfield is leading this charge to this common sense idea to protect animals just by making good choices with the cleaning supplies. As was already said, there are many alternatives out there. Councilmember Koretz, we're very happy that you are helping with this motion and are lockstep with Councilmember Blumenfield on this. And we'd also like to reach out and offer our support. Our organization has a app that we have developed. It's called the Cruelty Cutter app. And it's a great resource for anyone. You can download this app and you can scan any barcode on any product and find out immediately whether it was tested on animals or not and make choices in your personal life. And we would like to extend, there's a couple 100,000 people that have taken that opportunity. We'd like to also help the city in finding the right products that will make this work.
Thank you. And again, I didn't hear for the record if you mentioned your organization. So
It's Rescue and Freedom Project.
Mr. Hernandez, was that your commentary just now? I'll warn you both one more time, and any further commentary, and you'll be removed. Mr. Spindler, Mr. Herman, I'll address you both. Please remove Mr. Spindler for continuing to speak from the audience. I was not addressing any question to you.
Why you're addressing a question to me? I didn't do anything. Why are you using police officers to harass me? For what reason? You asked me a question.
I did not ask you a question.
So why as an officer of the law do you support these fuckers? I mean, they can't even do something like that. You know they can't do something like that. Look at this fat slob. You can see he's wrong. Look at him smiling. Look at the fat slob smiling.
For the record, Mr. Spindler is continuing to talk and yell and disrupt the meeting. Thank you for your patience. And we appreciate your offer of assistance as well.
Thank you.
I don't know if Mr. Blumenfield's staff rep here would like to say a word, or if not, Mr. Price, any?
No words to
Commentary.
add at this time.
No, I think this is great. I think our speakers said exactly what I would like to say, that this will make a huge difference and set a good precedent, and hopefully will be copied by other cities and reduce cruelty here and beyond. So I assume that we will support this without objection and enthusiastically. So with that, we approve the motion. Item number 5.
Item 5, Personnel Department report relative to sexual harassment, discrimination complaint procedure, and policy update.
Good afternoon, council members. Wendy Macy with the Personnel Department. With me is Olivia Flores. I'm just here to give you a brief update on the sexual harassment, discrimination prevention efforts that have taken place at the city. You may recall we came to the PAW committee in February, and we talked about our efforts to undertake a survey, which would be upcoming. We received some very good...
Hang on. And just for the record, Mr. Hernandez has left the meeting making goat noises and disrupting the meeting. I'm sorry, Herman, yes.
We received some very good feedback from the PAW committee about our survey and also our efforts to create a new online portal and phone. We got some suggestions about including something into the pay stub. We got some inquiries into how best to include information in the fields that would protect privacy rights. And so we're incorporating all of that information in our work going forward. Since then, we did issue the survey. We got a pretty good response from city employees. We actually did 2 surveys. One was just to the general managers, where we asked them for their feedback about what they thought an optimal sexual harassment prevention centralized resource would look like, as well as city employees. We received many, many responses. We've 4,200, which is actually a very good sample size for this type of survey. We received a lot of comments. Generally, I would say the suggestions all kind of coalesced around both for the general managers and from the employee population as a whole. You know, they want a clear, concise, easy to understand process for all employees. They want obviously a timely response. Clarification of the policies to supervisors, and particularly holding accountable people who may fail to report or even allow a workplace that's not safe or free of harassment. They wanted to look into more teeth into those penalties. In addition, an increased outreach. Folks also wanted improved training. Improved transparency, and really a overall culture change. So our office has been working along with the mayor's office, along with council representatives and many, many other departments, including the city attorney, to work on coming up with this new process. We have launched the beta version of My Voice LA, which has been soft launched. We haven't done the full publicity that the council members suggested. We'll do that when we roll it out full scale. And we have several subcommittees that are looking at policies, procedures, technology, and training. And our plan is by the end of July to report that back to the Risk Reduction Cabinet, and we'll have more information then. But again, very positive feedback from the people. People gave very constructive comments, and we're incorporating that. We've been using that in our efforts. We've been surveying other jurisdictions as to how they handle this, and we actually focused our questions based upon some of the topics that the survey participants wanted us to make sure that we covered. So with that, we're happy to take any questions you may have.
Did you get any feedback on whether folks thought they'd be more likely to report if there was a hotline or an online reporting system that made it more convenient for them?
People like both methods. If we were to do a hotline, it would realistically, it would not be something that would be staffed 24/7. What we would do is we would have recording that we would take messages, and obviously if someone had a threatening situation, that we would advise them to go to law enforcement and so forth. Some people are more comfortable on the phone. The online has a certain, I think, appeal also, because then when something is fresh in someone's mind, they can document everything, whether it's in the middle of the night, on a weekend, or whatever, and that gives them an opportunity to have that in a portal, and then we would have the data available to us rather than taking something from a phone call and having to eventually input it into some sort of database. So both methods are good. Again, we want to make sure that people feel comfortable with whatever method suits them best. But so we're exploring both. We've done a little bit more work with the portal, but it's just a matter of setting up a 800 number, and which ITA can do in a pretty short order, and then getting that up and running.
And what were general themes in the surveys? Are there changes to improve the reporting process that multiple numbers of people suggested?
Yes, I mean, one thing, I think one of the, a couple of the concerns that a lot of people expressed, one thing that we found disappointing was that a lot of people said that they didn't know who the sexual harassment coordinators in their departments were. So some people really don't even know who the point person is, and so we need to make sure that we meet with those people on a regular basis, and then again publicize the different avenues that people can go for it. Again, with a centralized thing, we hope that we'll be doing that. I think another concern people had was retaliation. And so again, I mentioned before, they wanted to make sure that they were able to do things anonymously, were able to have things come centralized to the new unit. I might also express gratitude to the mayor's budget, and also the Budget and Finance Committee and the council for additional resources actually for this centralized unit, so that they can again take these intake, triage them, deal with them in a timely manner, and then the person doesn't need to even go through someone in their own department. They would go through someone in Olivia's shop, and then they would be sort of preserved from, again, increased protection against the possibility of retaliation. But yeah, they do want credible, reliable, at ease of timelines, timely investigations, and basically, again, a clarification of the consequences for inaction, cover-ups, burying reports, or retaliation.
Yeah, it's interesting because we helped create the union at West Hollywood City Hall over 30 years ago over this issue, basically. Sexual harassment and reporting and possible retaliation. It's somewhat amazing that this is still an issue 30 years later, but I guess it's been ongoing and hasn't really come to the fore in the way that it has in the last year or so. So now I think it's even more obvious that we have to do what we're looking at. I hope we can do both the online and the hotline approach, because I think, as you said, either one will make some people feel more comfortable, and that's clearly the goal. And figuring out how we can lock in guarantees against retaliation, I think, is particularly important. Mr. Price?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. Just a couple of questions. Can you describe what neutral reporting mechanisms are going to be considered, or are considered? How does
it's part of what our operations committee is looking into, in how a complaint would come through and be investigated through the department or through the city. Some of the things that we are considering are maybe a third party or neutral investigator, but primarily employees have questioned whether their own department can investigate objectively. And so the personnel department would have staff available to conduct those investigations, which would be internal to the city but external to their own department. It is one of the things that was asked for. It's something that has worked with our Office of Discrimination Complaint Resolution. So there are things that we just need to probably improve upon and market better, so that employees are aware that we are here to support them.
has your department studied ways to implement anonymous reporting?
It is one of the factors that we are looking into as far as recommendations. And even at this point, anonymous reporting is a way of doing so. We need enough information of the incident in order to move forward. And that's something that we need to incorporate in our recommendations for the complete online portal or reporting process.
So you see there is a role for anonymous?
There has
I
been.
mean,
If
it's got
a
to be,
person
right?
says,
People don't want to report.
if a person submits a letter with a complaint and the details of that complaint have enough information for us to investigate, we have an obligation to investigate.
Well, as long as we are informing employees of that fact.
Yes.
They have fully good understanding of what the I don't want to say the weapons they have, but the resources they have at their disposal to make sure their rights are being fully enforced.
Part of the online portal includes a website which would provide a lot of information regarding resources, other avenues in order to pursue their complaints, internal resource to the city, including things like EAP, should they need support for the incident that occurred to them. And all of that would be available through the website that will be attached to the reporting portal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this seems like a very good start, so we appreciate your good work on this, and we will note and file this report without objection. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item number 6.
Item 6, Personnel Department report relative to Plan Year 2019 LA Well Civilian Benefits Program.
And if you could give us a little overview of this item.
Sure, I'll just, Wendy Macy again from the Personnel Department. I just want to say a few words before turning it over to Stephen Montagna, who's our Chief of Benefits. I'm here in my role as Chair of the Joint Labor Management Benefits Committee, and as you know, Ms. Cheryl Parisi, who was our co-chair, retired just recently. Otherwise, she would have surely been here with us, because we are very pleased with what's happened with the LA Well Civilian Benefits Program. Costs have been under control. Our renewal actually from Kaiser came in with no increase for the 2019 premiums, which we think is outstanding given some of the healthcare trends around the country. The committee has also been taking steps to really move things forward, including the wellness program, selecting Limeade as a wellness provider. We're going to be transitioning to a new third-party administrator, Morno Chappelle, and also EAP was mentioned in the previous presentation, transitioning to a new EAP provider. So we're continually looking to improve the benefits program. At this point, I'll turn it over to Stephen.
Okay, and I thought I just might kind of walk you through some of the renewal information. So actually, most of the contracts that we have within the benefits program currently have multi-year pricing arrangements, and so for most of the providers, there's no change in the cost, the premiums, or the fees for next year. But that's not the case with the health plans. This was an unusual year with respect to Kaiser and what we received from Kaiser. They actually came in with two options. One of them, what we called option A, was basically a rate pass for next year, so no increase in premiums, and that would be coupled actually with a rate cap in the next plan year, which would be 2020, and that rate cap is 2.5%. The other option actually was a reduction in what the premium rates would be. That reduction would have been negative 3.1%. So that was considered by the JLMBC, and their recommendation would be to use option A. There's a number of reasons for that. It does give us predictability for the next 2 years as to what the costs of the health plans will be. It also provides members with, it sort of is able to protect them from fluctuations in costs that otherwise might occur. The one thing to remember with the Kaiser rate is that the family rate that represents the maximum subsidy. So if you lower that, then that can impact members who are in the non-Kaiser plans, and most particularly members that are in the PPO plan. Those folks could be impacted. then with respect to the renewals that we have from Anthem, we have negotiated a multi-year rate guarantee with them. So, but what that means for them is actually a rate cap that would have applied in 2019 of 13%, but all of the renewals for all of the Anthem plans came in lower than that. And so of the four, the rate that was the largest was with the PPO plan, but that was only about 7.25%. You had the two HMO options that they offered coming in with a rate increase of 2.4%. And then the Vivity option, which is the new regional network that we recently added, that actually came in with a premium decline of that was just a little under a reduction of 10%. So all of those are extremely favorable renewals. Were there any questions on the health plan renewals?
Well, I certainly have one on the numbers you just gave us with Anthem. So why the significant, although not bad, increase for the most expensive plan and the significant decrease for the Vivity plan?
Well, they're very different plans. So you have to remember that the PPO plan is basically that gives the member the ability to effectively see anybody that they wish. They're unlike an HMO where they need to work through they need to work with a primary care physician to seek care. With that plan, if the member wants to go out of network, they don't want to work through a primary care physician, they can do that. So individuals who generally enroll with the PPO are looking for that kind of flexibility, and so costs of the program tend to be higher than with an HMO plan.
The one I thought would actually be unsustainable was the Vivity plan because it has some very popular, more expensive hospitals and network of doctors, and yet they're decreasing it. Do we know how they make that work?
So one of the things that we've learned from our consultants on this is that because the option is new, and so they're still looking to basically find their floor of what the premium should be, and as they gain more plans and they gain more experience, they're able to get a better sense of what the cost of the plan should be. We had our population in particular had very good experience last year. So we look at the loss ratio. So basically, what the health plan has to pay relative to the premium collected, and those numbers were very good for us last year. So in large part, this is driven by utilization.
And why did we switch third-party administrators, and what do we think we gained by the new plan?
Right. So we ran a competitive process. We've been working with the incumbent for many years. We were really looking to find ways to improve what we can do with a third-party administrator. There's two parts to what they do. One is the member interface, where people go in to establish accounts and manage their accounts over time. The other is the record-keeping portion, and so that's working with our payroll system and working with the benefit providers. And so what we saw from the winning firm is that they're really going to be able to kind of move us into the modern age. There's as we look around, we can see that we're right now with the current firm, we're really not sort of in that zone of being able to offer the state of the art. And so we're really looking for enhancements and are very excited about bringing them in.
Very good. Mr. Price?
Thank you. On this line made, again, indicated this is the city's first administrator. How do we do it in the past? Just internally? Or?
We really have not. Yeah, so we've never had a firm that we've contracted work with to provide any kind of wellness administration. So really any kind of wellness efforts have either been coordinated with the health plan, or they've represented efforts that we've led. With with the staff that we have within the personnel department. So what this is going to do is really leverage those resources, and it'll give us the ability to work with a single firm that will provide the kind of engagement with our members that hopefully can impact the actual member outcomes that we're trying to move.
Now, this the service administrator, is this a trend that other larger cities are doing, or is this something that LA has sort of charted its own course on, or what?
No, so actually the firm that we're contracting with, they work with a number of governmental clients. One of their largest is the state of Washington, so it's this is not uncommon. We're really looking to catch up, and I think to sort of be able to marry their resources with the efforts that we've already made. We really would like, once they're on board, and as we look to the coming years, to for our plan to take a leadership position in terms of.
So, is there any incentive for them to provide services? Do they get paid based on what their savings are, or what they? Is there any way to determine, or they get a flat fee for what they do?
Are you asking about the members receiving incentives, or does Limeade have incentives?
I know there's some incentives for employees.
Oh,
but this Limeade is just a flat.
Right.
Charge.
They can sort of be thought of as a third-party administrator in the sense that they're offering a broad range of resources, and in fact, not just the engagement portion, but they're also going to help us with data management. So they're going to be able to integrate information, aggregate data that we can get from our other benefit. They can pull in information from the health plans, as an example. So they're really providing a much larger range of services than just engaging the members.
And they're doing this on a multi-year basis, or just one year at a time? Or
it'll be a multi-year contract.
To what, 5 years, 10 years?
So what we typically do with the benefits contracts is we'll write the contract for 3 years, and then there'll be an option to extend it for an additional 2 years before the next procurement cycle.
Thank you.
Well, this looks like all good news, so we will happily approve the Personnel Department report, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item number 7.
Item 7, CAO report relative to reviewing the replacement of contracted services in city departments with employees hired under the targeted local hire program.
Good afternoon. I'm Melissa Fleming with the Office of the City Administrative Officer. A council motion requested that the CAO prepare a report on contracted services in order to evaluate which contracted services could possibly be replaced by instead hiring additional city employees through the targeted local hire program. So the report before you provides a review of the city's contracts for 4 specific services, including custodial contracts administered by the Department of General Services, contracts for graffiti abatement administered by the Board of Public Works, contracts for call center support in the Bureau of Sanitation, and contracts for tree trimming services administered by the Bureau of Street Services. As part of our analysis, we reviewed and came to the conclusion that for all 4 of the contracts reviewed as part of this report, it's estimated it would be more costly to the city to perform the services with city employees than to continue contracting for the services. This report was released about 6 weeks ago, and as detailed in the report, the recommendation of the CEO at that time was that the council consider any changes to department contract authority or personnel authority related to these contracts included in the budget deliberations for the 2018-19 budget. So the 2018-19 budget has now been adopted, and there were several actions that were taken by the council that are related to these same contracts, which were included in the CAO's report. So I just wanted to briefly outline some of those changes because they made in some situations, some sort of dramatic changes that impact the context of this report. So specifically for the Bureau of Sanitation's call center, the report detailed $2 million in contract expenses that were estimated for the current fiscal year. In the adopted budget, over 40 new positions were added to the Bureau of Sanitation in order to transition the majority of the work that's currently being performed by contractors to city employees in the Bureau of Sanitation.
For GSD, about half of the approximately $5.6 million, which is about $2.8 million, of expense funding that was previously budgeted for custodial contract support was removed from GSD's budget and instead placed in the unappropriated balance. GSD was directed to report back to the council with the hiring plan as far as how they can transition this existing custodial work from contractors to city employees hired through the TLH program, and GSD is currently working on that report back. And then finally, for street services, a total of $4.4 million in funding that was previously allocated for contract tree trimming services was removed from the Bureau's budget and instead placed in the unappropriated balance. Street services was directed to report back with a hiring plan as far as how they could replace the contractors by hiring new city employees for the tree trimming program, utilizing TLH applicants to the extent possible. And the Bureau is also working on that report back to this committee. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
So are there any other contracts that the CAO is planning to review?
As part of this analysis, we worked with your office and the CLA to sort of develop what we were considering some of the high priority items. We sort of took a hiatus in this review as part of the budget process. If there are other high priority contracts that you'd like us to continue to work on as part of this, we'd be happy to work with your staff to continue facilitating the review as part of this request.
And we'll look at that to see if there's some that we want to add. Any participants in the graffiti abatement program that are also targeted local hire applicants?
So it's possible. So the Office of Community Beautification's graffiti abatement contractors, in some situations, it's possible that some of the individuals that are currently employed through those contractors have applied for the Targeted Local Hire program, but I don't know that information.
Okay. Any Targeted Local Hire program participants promoted into the CIR classification? And what's the estimated timeline for doing so if we're looking at that?
I'm not sure if any have promoted so far. Typically, the CIR classification is a promotional opportunity for individuals who could be hired through the Targeted Local Hire program as office trainees and ultimately end up as administrative clerks. Once they're administrative clerks for a certain period of time, I believe it's either 1 or 2 years, they would then be eligible to apply for the promotional test for that customer information representative classification. At this point in time, I would make an educated guess that probably no one has promoted yet simply because of that timeline that it takes and because the Targeted Local Hire program hasn't been in place that long. But we could certainly get back to you with that information to be certain. But it definitely would be a promotional opportunity for individuals who started in the TLH program.
And looking at the tree trimming, it looks like the city would ask us to spend $7.8 million on one-time costs. So I assume that's for equipment, and the question would be, do we not have tree trimming equipment from the days where we did more of it ourselves?
Right. So the bulk of the one-time costs, as you mentioned, are sort of equipment, large tractor trailers, things of that nature. There would be a couple of options for the city to pursue for this. I'm not sure at this point in time, based on the timeline, it's likely vehicles that were still around in that time might have been salvaged at this point in time, but we could certainly ask street services to come back with that analysis. But in addition to simply purchasing equipment, there are other options out there. So part of our cost analysis that we're looking at and working with the Bureau as they're working on their subsequent report back to this item was seeing if maybe in the short term they might be able to rent some of this equipment to sort of space out some of those costs. But I know the Bureau is working on that large one-time cost as part of the report back that the council asked of them and in the budget process.
So we think we got rid of most of our tree trimming equipment, it sounds like.
I'm not sure. I would have to defer to the Bureau of Street Services on that particular item.
Well, hopefully you have the magic answer to this question.
Good afternoon, Greg Spots, Assistant Director of the Bureau of Street Services. You're correct, Council Member. When there was a citywide fleet reduction as part of the budget crisis, the excess tree trimming equipment was salvaged, so we don't have any extra. Everything we have, we're using with existing staff.
Would that not seem a little short-sighted? Or was that done by management with the hopes that they could keep contracts going rather than having us return to employees?
Well, we were required to reduce the fleet by a certain percentage during the budget crisis because of the repair costs, and we reduced fleet for the 100 employees that were deleted out of Urban Forestry Division as part of the budget crisis.
So we couldn't have just stored that equipment?
Typically, when items are above their useful life, the maintenance cost of those vehicles becomes very costly to the city. So I would anticipate what happened at that period of time is we had a number of vehicles that were above their useful life, which were costing a lot for the city to maintain, at which point that's when we go through the salvage process.
So even if we weren't using them, we had to do a lot of stuff to actively maintain them?
I mean, I'm not sure about these specific vehicles in question, how they would be going, but typically that's the way the city's process works. If the vehicle is above the city's useful life, I mean, even if a vehicle is going to be sitting around for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, you would still need to perform, regular oil changes and things of that nature, so it's not just sitting around. So I would anticipate that's likely what happened as part of that.
And with the current equipment that we're looking at, rather than having a large expense up front, could we not use MICLA funding to space that out?
As you're aware, during the budget process, the MICLA financing authority was actually oversubscribed, and the CAO is in the process of reporting back to the Budget and Finance Committee on how to sort of review the overall list of MICLA projects that were included in the budget process, to how we bring that overall list of projects into our capacity for MICLA. So that's a separate conversation that we're working on. If we were to have a conversation about adding these vehicles to MICLA as well, that would be additional items that we don't have MICLA authority for at this particular point in time.
Well, I would probably encourage you to at least put them in the mix, since the process is one of prioritization.
I mean, we can certainly work with the Bureau and come up with a list of what those items are and add it to it. I would just I remember there were a number of items, as I'm sure you recall, during budget and finance deliberations that were added to the MICLA list. And so that's an ongoing report back that the CAO has to try and identify ways of making sure we stay within our MICLA financing capacity.
Right. And I have no idea where they'd land on the priority list, but it might be that it's very possible that they would land among the items that would be financed through MICLA. So
we can certainly work.
I just asked
work
you
with the
take
Bureau
a
and
look
see
at that.
See what those costs are.
Okay, Mr. Price.
Thank you. Can you give us an idea of how many position slots we reclaimed, if you will, through this process? How many you identify?
Since my colleague with Street Services here, we can start with that process. So I believe the overall funding that was allocated as part of this was $4.4 million. I believe that $4.4 million was a conversation that it would be able to handle at minimum 3 additional crews for Street Services, but perhaps they have some more detailed information.
Of all the works, sanitation.
So sanitation was, I think, 41. Yeah, sanitation, I believe, was 41 total positions. As far as custodians, GSD is still working on coming back with that specific number. At the time we did our analysis, they estimated if they were to bring all those positions in-house, it would be 215 positions that they would need in order to perform that same level of services. However, they're still working on their report back about sort of how all of those positions, but I would anticipate it would be over 100. And then for street services, I'm not sure about the additional crews.
For the 4 additional tree trimming crews, it's approximately 30 staff added.
So I think we ended up at, 170 at minimum, potentially others, as we're still pending those report backs from GSD and Street Services requesting those specific additional position
we just hope that
authorities.
number continues to increase. It is a unique opportunity for us to hire from within. Certainly from within the city.
And it is important to note, both for street services and for general services, while the funding was placed in the unappropriated balance, neither department was provided additional position authorities as part of the budget. So part of their report back will be requesting these additional position authorities that would subsequently come to your committee for action.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I would just say, for the record, I'm still rather suspicious that a lot of this equipment was eliminated as a way to help management back up their interest in moving towards contracts. I think, as it turned out, the tree trimming contracts wound up being pretty disastrous with really bad service combined with rapidly escalating costs. So I would certainly encourage all departments to avoid doing that in the future without council approval. And I'll probably introduce a motion directing that in the future now this thought came up. We have one member of the public that has signed up to speak, Teresa Sanchez.
Good afternoon, Chairman Koretz and Councilmember Price. It's good to see you. Just first of all, wanted to thank the CAO, Melissa, for really being very responsive to your motion and trying to come up with concrete information that will show us the way forward in terms of trying to effectuate the spirit of the Service and Workforce Restoration Agreement between, Teresa Sanchez, AFSCME District Council 36, and the Coalition of LA City Unions. There's a lot more work to do, and my main comment today is that part of that agreement also set up a strategic workforce development task force. And that, in my opinion, is really a ghost committee at this point. That group has met a few times and done virtually nothing. So I would like to recommend that the work of the CAO be bolstered by assistance of the resources that are in that task force, and part of the agreement as well talks about giving other sorts of resources so that we can develop this work further and deeper. And I would also just mention that other areas that we need to look at are sidewalks and median islands, in addition to the ones that Melissa identified, and we'd like to continue to work on those and dedicate significant resources to do that strategic planning that we need.
And I'm going to ask that we hold this item in committee and that we ask for feedback on this particular report from that organization. So if we direct that,
Sorry, which organization?
at the task force that was mentioned. And so if we could ask you to meet within the next 30 days and take a look at this, if possible, and then we will agendize a further discussion of that, hopefully with you or additional members of the task force coming back to committee to discuss it. So I thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation by the CAO's office as well. Item number 8.
Item 8, City Attorney Report and Ordinance relative to amending Los Angeles Administrative Code, Section 5.495, to authorize the issuance of refunds from the Civilian LA Well Employee Benefits Trust Fund.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did. I think we already did 8 on consent. So.
Actually, that was just 9.
Did we do 8 on?
9's on consent.
Okay.
Did we do 8?
3, 4, 9, 13.
We didn't. Okay.
Take 8 on consent.
Item. Well, I'll just ask you to give a brief overview.
Councilmember Koretz, Mr. Price. At the last session, sorry, Charles Hong, Deputy City Attorney. In the last committee session, you requested our office to return back with an amended ordinance to Section 5.495 regarding the amending of the Benefits Trust Fund in order to issue premium refunds to those city employees who may have contributed, purchased insurance and other benefits programs in which those premiums were refunded in the subsequent years. This amendment to the ordinance, to the administrative section allows for that to occur. In addition, this amendment also allows any interest that may have accrued on those principal payments that the city had received and have been accruing interest to also be returned to those same employees in proportion to their premium contributions.
And I don't have any questions. Mr. Price, do you?
No.
So we will approve this item without objection.
Thank you.
So we'll approve the draft ordinance. Item number 10.
Item 10, CAO and Department of Animal Services reports relative to proposed agreement with Heaven on Earth Society for Animals for partnering with the Latino Alliance for Animal Care Foundation for the operation of the West Valley Spay Neuter Clinic.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, John Forland with the Department of Animal Services. And we're happy to move forward with this now. We had started earlier and ran out of time to act. So we're still waiting for one report from the CAO. We've received that report and put this item back on the agenda. We're looking forward to having an operator for the spay-neuter clinic at our West Valley shelter. It's been open almost 10 years, and due to some problems with the construction inside, we were not able to put this forward through an RFP to look for a vendor until a year ago, and we have. And what we've kind of learned in the process over the years, we have 4 other shelters with clinics operated by private vendors there now, is that the vendor that's going to work the best is one that has strong management and good financial backing and a strong board and good outreach. And that's what this proposal from Heaven on Earth Animal Society and Latino Alliance has. Both of them have rescue organizations or have worked throughout the valley. They're familiar with this area, and we've been working with them to put this contract together. And that's basically it. It's going to be one of our busier shelters, not the busiest. The busiest is in South LA. We have a vendor there, ASPCA, that's been there for many years. They do about 10,000 spay-neuter surgeries a year there. And it's very significant part.
How many are projected here?
4,000. And so we're looking at this to be a center, a community center for all animal needs.
So how many surgeries would need to be provided to exceed the $500,000 limit?
4,500.
So we're not expecting to have need exceeding that?
Not initially. It takes more for the startup phase than you might think. They will be at least 12 months, just getting everything organized and put together. It takes a while for the community to start thinking of the animal shelter as a place not only for adoptions, but to take their animals for all their medical needs. So that will kind of ramp, we found out, will kind of ramp up over time. So it would probably be 2 years before they would be looking at that kind of a maximum.
Hey, John. I'm Brenda Barnett, Animal Services. I also wanted to point out that we did pass some rules within the commission, I don't remember when it was, John may remember, where if we get partway through the year and we find out that the vendors are not using the maximum in their contracts, then we can reallocate the funding and put the funding where it would be used and needed the most.
Okay, so if it's too much, we have an easy way to deal with that. If it winds up being too little, even though we don't anticipate that, what do you do?
We have a talk with them about their responsibility to spay and neuter more of our adoptable animals in the shelters.
Okay. Mr. Price, any additional questions? This sounds good, and we will approve it without objection. Thank you very much.
No.
Item number 11.
Item 11, Department of Animal Services report relative to the installation, replacement of canopy and kennel covers at South Los Angeles, Chesterfield Square, and North Central Animal Services Centers.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon. Christy Lozon, Animal Services. We're just here to request the approval of the Animal Welfare Trust Fund in the amount of $275,213.61 to complete the installation of the canopy covers over the play yards at our Chesterfield Square facility, and redo all of the canopies at North Central.
What's the current balance of the Animal Welfare Trust Fund? Or are we getting low, or are we fine with this expenditure?
John Forland with Department of Animal Services, $4 million plus at present.
Okay, so it's healthy, so this won't put a significant dent in it.
Those funds generate from fees, or what are those?
Mostly donations for the Animal Welfare Trust Fund. most of the donors, some are large, and many are restricted, but we also have other funds that are not restricted, and
Been going on over several years, and this
many years.
amount's been there for,
It's long-standing. Animal Welfare Trust Fund has been there for many years.
And if you place these awnings up full-time throughout the year, will it have any negative impacts on lawn grass or anything else that would add to maintenance expenses?
No.
Okay. Very good. Mr. Price, any additional?
thank you.
So we will approve that item without objection.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think that is everything. So with no further business on the agenda, we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.